in
Okay.
conversation with Deen Ferrell. Deen Ferrell has been writing professionally since high school. His books, plays, and articles have won numerous awards at the local, national, and international level. He has written for commercials and public radio, has had plays taught throughout the Northwest state, has written lyrics for and co-produced two songs streaming major music channels, and is a popular public speaker and book panel guest. He has spent time in Scotland, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Bahamas, and all over the US. He has been nominated for a Student Academy Award as a current book series, Cryptic Spaces, that is winner of 8 national and international awards and has published a children's book, Don't Look Under the Stairs, with Disney animator Thomas Leavitt that allows young readers to walk into the pages of the book. He currently has book, song, and screenplay project in the works. Born under the sign of water, he lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and loves being near the coast. He believes each of us has a responsibility for recognizing and protecting the beauty and wonder of a natural world. He's a fearless advocate of kindness, courtesy, and respect for all people. He loves to write stories that give hope and fuel life with a sense of wonder and adventure. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure to have on the show today, Darren Farrell. How are you doing, Dan?
How are you, Peter?
I'm doing very fine. It's an hot afternoon here in Nigeria. It's quite lovely to have you up on the show today. Thanks for coming on.
Well, happy to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, really. Thanks for coming on. So, Dean, I'd like us to start today's conversation with your time travel romance series novel. The name was Cryptic Spaces Foresight, a thrilling time travel adventure, which is a first book actually in the Cryptic Space series. And I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to write Foresight, a thrilling time travel adventure? And how did you come up with an amazing Lady Violin cover display?
Well, that's actually two questions, so I'll answer them one at a time. The first
Yeah.
one is how did I come up with the idea? And actually, the idea came when I took the family van in to get it serviced.
Mm,
I had to go all the way across town. When I got in there, they said it's going to be about 6 hours. They said, you can sit here in this waiting room, and it was like this little tiny closet with some peanuts,
mm,
or we could take you via the van over to the mall. So I said, well, I'll go over to the mall. So I
wow.
was walking around that mall, and this was when we were living in Southern California. It was one of those rare days where it was actually raining that day.
Mm,
And walking around the mall, I got to the end of that mall, and they had a whole wall that was like 3 stories high that was just glass.
mm,
And I remember thinking it was so stunning because the cloud covers were just, right there, and it was just really kind of dark, and the rain was coming down. And then all of a sudden, as I got close to the wall,
yeah.
the clouds parted just a little bit, and this stream of sunlight burst through, and it came down, and right next to this big large wall there was a metal staircase, circular staircase that went up to the upper floors. And
Mm,
this beam of light went down under that staircase and
wow.
hit something in the corner, and all of a sudden it just turned into um, like a rainbow, like there were sparkles of rainbow all over
Yeah.
that corner. And I
Wow.
thought to myself, this is a corner that probably nobody has been in for a long time. And
Mm,
yet all of a sudden, it's just lit up with these sparkles. It's like one of these hidden spaces that had something in there, maybe a child's piece of jewelry or something that had
mm,
gotten lost, and it was suddenly brought to become a beautiful thing there in the corner with
wow.
that stream of sunlight. And I thought, how many places around the world are there these hidden spaces that are just forgotten and overlooked? and yet there's something beautiful and wonderful there. And what
Mm.
if these spaces could be connected? And what if these
Wow.
connections not only went across space, but they went across time as well? And so
Wow.
that was where the idea started. Um, Now, when I get a concept, then it's not long after that I got the title, Cryptic Spaces, and
Yeah.
then suddenly, knocking on the door in my brain, um, is I open that door and here's this 15-year-old kid, and he tells me, "Hey, I'm a brilliant young mathematician, and you called me here. What'd you call me here for?" He's kind of grungy, comes and sits on a couch. I'm thinking, what is this guy? And then all of a sudden, this limousine pulls up, and when I look, this beautiful girl steps out. And she is
Wow.
just, I mean, it was like a jaw-dropping moment for both me and Willoughby, the boy who had just come. And we're just like, wow. And she is mysterious, and she is elegant, and she has this sense about her that she really
Mm.
knows what she wants and where she's going. And
Mm.
when she comes marching up the door, she says the same thing. She says, "I'm Sydney, and you called me here." And then it wasn't long after that that this older gentleman, kind of like a professor, shows up, and he introduces himself as HS, or Hathaway Simon. He has this um, clandestine organization with time travel technology. And
Mm.
so suddenly they sit down, and the story starts generating
Wow.
from there. So that's kind of where the idea came from. As far as the cover,
Mm.
um, when the publisher said, "Okay, we're gonna work on some drafts for some covers for you,"
Yeah.
I wanted in my mind to have the same experience for the reader that I had when I first saw Sydney.
Mm.
That wow factor, that this is an elegant, talented lady, and I want to know more about her type feeling. So I asked him, I said, "Would you mind if I put together kind of just a little mock-up of ideas in my mind?" They said, "No, go ahead." So I put it together, I sent it to them, and they actually came back and said, "We like it, but we're going to have to tweak it a little bit, but we like the basic idea." And so that's how that
Oh,
came
wow.
about.
That's an amazing introduction into becoming a writer. Sounds to be quite fun, an amazing introduction into becoming an author. I enjoy you talking about it, talking about how the book came to be, talking about the lady violin cover display, and several other things you've mentioned so far. Thank you so much for mentioning. Thank you. And
You bet.
also, then you have the follow-up series in the name of Eight Queens. For readers who haven't read that yet, and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what you'd expect in terms of themes and subject lines picking up Eight Queens? And if you have a copy of it there, I'd love you to show to the camera just so it's what it looks like. We want to
Well,
start from the
actually,
first book,
this is the cover for
Cryptic
Cryptic Spaces.
Spaces. Yeah.
Now, Cryptic Spaces,
Very voluminous.
Foresight is the first book in the series, and there's
Okay.
5 books in that series. The
Wow.
second book is Eight Queens, and then the third book is Dark Edge Rising. Fourth book is Enigma. Fifth book is Tangible Time. So the
Mm.
entire series is completed. Um, it's won a number of national, international awards. Um,
Wow.
with the second book, you get into a little bit more of additional characters. There's an African American man who's kind of a mix between Will Smith and Stephen Curry and David Coggins,
Mm.
and is a fun, energetic character that brings a lot of life to the books. There's
Yeah.
another Hispanic man who his name is Antonio, and he's a brilliant interdimensional architect, yet he
Mm.
masquerades as doing his family business of being a neighborhood barber. And that's how he recruits Willoughby into this clandestine organization.
Yeah.
So so you get to know a little bit more about them, about their backstories, their history, and then you get to like all the books, you get to travel to points in history. You get to travel to different countries and locales. A lot of
Mm,
action adventure. You meet the desert witch. You learn more about the zombies that are
mm,
introduced in book one, and you start to come to understand what's behind a lot of these myths and mysteries that we have in our world. And that's really part of the fun of the story is finding what's behind these myths and mysteries, how they connect, how they help to spin the action towards a conclusion where we face down
mm.
um,
Interesting.
the dark elements in the story.
That's quite amazing, really. I love your take on that. It's quite amazing to know how the other books come to be. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah. And I hear you have a couple songs you co-produce and streaming channels like Spotify, Apple Music, and Pandora that have lyrics taken from your book series. Would you like to tell us about that too? I'm
Sure,
interested.
that was a really fun thing that happened. I actually got contacted by a fan of the books,
Wow.
and she said, "Hey, I'm an up and coming artist in LA. I was reading your book, and there's some lyrics in there, and I really loved those lyrics. How would you
Oh,
feel if I turned them into a song?" And
oh
that was
wow.
just another kid like me. So I said, "Sure, let's do it." And she said, "Well, do you have a tune for it, or do you mind if I apply a tune?" I said,
Oh,
"Let's see what you come up with." And the interesting thing,
yeah.
Peter, is that these lyrics, I did have a tune in, and I'd actually plunked it out on the piano with some help of some friends. And um, when I got the music back from her, she had never heard this.
Oh,
Her music almost fit the same tune that I had. So I thought
wow.
that's exciting. That means that the words had a musicality to them that
Hmm.
that was the tune. So that was kind of cool. And she recorded that and we put it on the streaming channel. She actually came to a couple of our book signings and
Wow.
had a guitar version of the song also that she did. That's a lot of fun. I wish we had had that recorded. I'd love to have that on the site, but we didn't get that recorded. We talked about going back and redoing it in the studio. But then later on, when we were doing the final book,
Hmm.
I reached out to her again and I said, "Hey, there's some lyrics in book four and book five, and I'm really interested in doing another song." And she said, "Well, right now, I'm engaged with Heather Stewart, who's a real up and coming artist in LA,
Oh,
does kind of a lot of soundtracks to anime and has done a couple of soundtracks to other live shows
yeah.
online and on the airwaves. And so she said, I'm kind of locked into her, but let me run it by her. And then they got back with me and they said, "Oh yeah, we love these lyrics. We'd like to take a stab at it." And they said, I said, "Well, I would like to be a little bit more involved this time in the
Uh,
studio side." So I actually had the opportunity to be the co-producer on that song and to
wow.
be involved in actually the sound that we put together for it. And we later used that in our book trailer videos.
Hmm.
That was a fun experience as well.
Oh, wow. That sounds to me to be quite fun, really. That's amazing. That's an amazing
It
idea.
was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
amazing idea turned make into reality. That today you have the
Right.
songs in other streaming platform. It's amazing and it's quite commendable. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And you also have a third series in the name of Dark Edge Rising. Could you briefly tell us about the making of that as well?
That's the third book in the series. And while the second book is Eight Queens, which, by the way, if you're a chess person, you
Yeah.
know the Eight Queens puzzle, which is a chess puzzle where you have to put 8
Mm.
queens on the chessboard where none of them are in check with the other queens. And you think it sounds really easy, but you try to do it, it's not really easy. But
Wow.
anyway, Dark Edge Rising is when we really start to see some foreshadowing towards the ending. Willoughby and Sydney's relationship has become much, much closer, and that relationship starts to meet some challenges. We have another scenario where we get to go to different areas and learn a little bit about history. There's actually some history from Russia with the famous director there, and we get to learn about dragons. Dragons enter the storyline in book 3 in Dark Edge Rising, and dragons become a very prominent part of the story in books 4 and 5. So a lot of fun things in Dark Edge Rising.
That was quite amazing,
Okay.
really. I've been enjoying the discussion of your book so far. To me, it sounds quite compelling, very compelling and quite absorbing.
Cool.
Very
Yeah.
compelling. Thank you. And now I'd like us to delve now a bit into inspirations and ideas. One of the things that got me surprised is how authors, especially novelists like yourself, would sit down and craft long sentences in a way that the sentence come together to make a great novel. We have sentences come together to make paragraphs, to make pages, to make chapters, and an eventual novel is being formed. This always leaves me thinking how exactly they got the idea to bring these words together, bring these sentences and paragraphs together and pages together, the way that it keeps transitioning beautifully, that a novel is made. As someone who has written 5 amazing series thus far, and also one children's book, I'd like to ask you, how do you get your inspirations and ideas? Where do they come from?
Well, I was in a presentation one time with the author Ray Bradbury, who did Fahrenheit 451 and Something Wicked This Way Comes and
Yeah.
Dandelion Wine, a lot of those books, and he said that for him, it's a matter of just running behind his characters, and
Mm.
that's there's a lot of truth in that for me. I come
Oh.
up with a concept, and guys, we live in a fascinating world where
Mm.
there is so much around us that I wouldn't run out of concepts from now to the end of the world because there's just so many
Mm.
things
Yeah.
that
Oh, wow.
fascinate me, and you can find them in your backyard, in your bedroom, anywhere in the world. And
Mm.
once you have that concept, then it's a matter for me of getting the title. Once
Yeah.
I have the title and I know that's the title, then the title invites the characters for me. And
Mm.
just like I explained in the beginning, the
Yeah.
characters just come to me once I have that title. And then once I have the characters, it's just a matter of following those characters and recording what's happening with those characters. I'll
Mm.
start even when I started Cryptic Spaces. I had a very vague idea of where the story arc was going, where it was going to end. But if I ever tried to get um, too structured
Yeah.
and put down this is going to happen, 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 then the characters would just go a different direction and I'd
Mm.
have to follow the characters because if I didn't follow the characters,
It will
the whole
lose.
story would start falling apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, that's what it is. It's following those characters, putting down what's happening, and so that would try to get too structured with the characters. The
Yeah.
characters would go a
It-
different direction,
Yeah.
and so I found that the story would fall apart then. So that's how I do it. I get the concept, the title, then I follow the characters, and that makes it so much more fun because you I get to be going along with the story the same as the reader is, and
Yeah.
there are many things that happen in the story that's a total surprise to me, and I'm like, oh, that's why that happened, or that's why they did this, and
Mm.
it's just makes it fun.
Oh,
But
wow.
anyway, that's my process.
That's amazing, really. And I don't think I'm done yet because from your answer to that, I was able to pick something else. And I'd like to ask you, do you have a specific writing process? If there was one thing you would like readers to take away after reading one of your books or screenplays, what would that be?
Well, I think that the thing that I most want readers to recognize is what an amazing opportunity life is.
Hmm.
I mean, we live in such a wonderful world, and it's worth protecting, and it's
Yeah.
worth being clean and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I want them to always know that hope is never more than a second away, a blink away. I want them to know that light exists even in the darkness,
Hmm.
and that everyone
Yeah.
needs to have the opportunity to view the day as an adventure and to
Yeah.
share light through kindness with each other. And
Hmm.
that's where the real thrill and excitement in life comes from.
Oh, wow.
As we recognize the beauty around us, we share that beauty, and then we are able to feel that come back to us.
Hmm. Wow, that's an amazing what you've mentioned there. I love your take on that, and it's quite very pulling and very true. Very true. Thank you so much for mentioning Dean.
You bet.
Thank you. Yeah. And apart from the books you've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
Yeah, I have a ton of stuff I'm working on. I have a screenplay that I'm just finishing called The Art of Eating Ice Cream. I have a couple of children's books that I'm working on right now. I
Wow.
have another series that I'm going to be introducing next year called
Mm,
Paperwood. It's a fantasy series. I have a collection of Christmas stories that I'm
wow.
working on that will be a series of books as well. Every year I do a Christmas story to share with
Mm,
family and friends to kind of share some of my religious beliefs and to kind of share my beliefs about humanity because I feel like Christmas is a time
yeah.
when we share and people are more apt to listen
Mm,
to the beauty in people,
yeah.
especially. And um, so lots
Yeah.
of stuff. Even have a song or two in the works.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Sounds like you've got a lot in going. Thank you so much for sharing.
You bet.
Yeah, and I like also talk a bit about challenges because I know that writing a book could profess so many different challenges, and it differs actually with different genres from one author to another. But then I like to ask you, are there any challenges you've encountered at the process of writing your book and also ever since it got published? And also, how do you handle criticism as a writer?
First of all, I would say that everything worth doing in life is going to have challenges. And
Hmm.
it's not so much, what the challenges are, is how you face them.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest challenge that any writer has in today's environment is marketing because you can write a great book, it can have a fantastic cover, it can get
Mm.
published, and then it's just one of 50 million other books that are out there in the flow of books,
Wow.
and how does it get noticed? How do you find a way to let your voice be heard?
Mm.
So that's been an ongoing learning curve for me of what I need to do as far as book signings, events, blogging, interviews like this.
Yeah.
I've done television interviews, I've done music, I've done a lot of social media, done
Yeah.
live book shows, and it's really a mix that helps you to get where you're starting to get the message out about the books, and then other
Absolutely.
people start picking up the baton and taking
Yeah.
that for you. But that that space between when you first get published
Mm,
and when finally other people are picking up that baton and spreading the word about your book. That's the
mm,
most challenging space, I think, is,
absolutely.
is that is that time frame.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. That's such an amazing response you've
Also, you
got.
asked about handling criticism.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't address that, but I would say, you're going to get criticism, no matter how good a writer you are,
Mm.
because there's just people out there that, who knows, maybe the cat peed on the carpet today for him or whatever, and they're just going to take it out on you because for some reason you didn't fulfill their idea of what they wanted you to do in the book or what they wanted this character to do. And they're so you just have to have perspective. And I
Yeah.
think the best way to keep that perspective
Yeah.
is surround yourself with some people that you trust, that are going to tell you the truth,
Mm.
and trust them when they read your work, and take their advice.
Yeah.
And when it's to a point to where they're telling you this is really good,
Yeah.
then that gives you perspective when you get all the
Absolutely.
ones that say this is a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it helps you to just realize that the world is full of people, and some people are going to love your work and some
Yeah.
people aren't.
Yeah. Oh well, I
That's all.
love that response. I think it's something that everybody should get at the back of their mind. And also, if you would like to long a career as an author, you have to be prepared for criticism, both tough one, the hard one, and the nice one. But I don't think there's even a nice criticism, both the one constructive and the one that's quite terrible. And yeah, I've got someone saying time that if you would like to long a career as an author, you should have in mind that these things will come. It will definitely come. You should be aware that it's gonna come, and you should be prepared to receiving them. Yeah, so I'd like to say
Right.
thank you. Well, that's an amazing and educative response you've got in there in terms of handling criticism. Thank you. And I'd also like to ask you, I'd love to get your advice with this. As a published author, what sort of advice do you offer other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book? What would you advise people in this category?
Well, I'd like to say I've been there, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. So
Mm,
remember, there's always hope. I would say be kind, be courageous, be consistent. The
mm,
writer's life may have flashes of grammar, but much of it is hard and it's lonely sometimes, and it feels thankless. To
mm,
be an author means to find a way to keep looking up and hanging on, and to see hope
mm,
sometimes when it's hard to find. Um, Somebody told me once, fear your admirers. And I
mm,
thought, what kind of advice is
mm,
that? I love
mm.
my admirers, but the truth of the matter is, don't get complacent. Sometimes you can think I'm there. Always be learning, always be willing to see things in a new light,
Yeah. Oh,
and be
wow.
growing yourself.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing trunkload of advice you've got in there. Then I love it. There is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I love all of these things you've mentioned. And I'm hoping that viewers, even including myself, would love to utilize it. Thank you so much for your wonderful advice.
It's
Yeah.
been great speaking with you, Peter.
Yeah. And just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview, I would love to get a copy of any of your books. On what platform are they available on for purchase?
Well, you can find my books just about anywhere. Of course, Amazon. In fact, I have an author's page there. You can see all of my books at
Mm,
once on Amazon. But pretty much any bookstore you walk into, if you tell
yeah.
them you want Cryptic Spaces by Deen Ferrell, and it's Dean with two E's, no A, Deen, and it's Ferrell, just like Will Ferrell, the actor. So
Mm,
they'll be able to order it in for you. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on almost any online site. So
okay.
very easy to get a hold of. Um, and if you have any problems, feel free to email me directly at crypticspaces.com or crypticspaces@gmail.com.
Oh, that's amazing. And I left a link in the discussion part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Dane Ferrell's books directly on Amazon and Barnes& and Nobles on his website and also another platform. I also left a link to Dane's social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Dean, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. I must say it's more than awesome, very wholesome, quite lovely and great having this lovely conversation with you around your beautiful titles. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. It was great to meet you, Peter, and you have a great day there in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you too.